right now, my next guest, I really admire this woman. She has done a lot for conservatism in Washington, D.C. She's just really done a lot. Really, I admire her a lot for that she's done. And I've said on Fox and Friends before that some people have fantasy football tickets. I don't do that. I do fantasy presidential tickets. And when I was asked about on Fox and Friends about this, well, Representative Bachmann was on like 3 different tickets that I had, and she joins us on the phone right now. Thanks so much for joining us, Representative. Good afternoon.
Dana, it's just a thrill to be able to be on the phone with you today. Thanks so much, and you're adorable. I saw the clip of you, and you're absolutely adorable.
Oh, well, thank you. Well, I have to ask you. You know I can't have you on the show without asking. Is it something that you are open to doing at some point, perhaps, maybe 2012? Or?
Well, Steve Ducey played it. I was on Fox and Friends last Friday, and he played your clip for me and said, what about it? What do you think? And quite honestly, right now, I am the number one target for Nancy Pelosi to defeat this fall. And I have got my hands full. I mean, she's very serious. They've already been up on TV for 3 weeks against me. And I hail from Minnesota, which is the state that's voted for Democrat for president longer than any other state in the country. We just elected Al Franken out of my state. I'm the first Republican woman ever to get elected in Minnesota. So she knows that even though the pendulum seems to be going more conservative and against President Obama, that I will always have a very challenging race. And so between her, Emily's List, these radical environmental groups, they've all made me the number one target, and they are dumping money up in my race because I am their high-value target this year. They want my scalp. They want me defeated. And that's the only thing that I am focusing on for the next 14, 15 weeks because they are serious to make sure that I do not return to Congress. So it's impossible for me to think anything beyond 2012 because they're trying to make sure that my career ends on Election Day in November.
Oh, yes, but you didn't say no. I'm ever hopeful. You didn't say no. Well, Representative, you've been in the news a lot lately, and I know that, especially with everything that's going on, it's so crazy. I wanted really quickly, before I ask you about this Tea Party caucus, I want to get your reaction to all of this Shirley Sherrod stuff that has been going down in the press and in Fox News and Andrew Breitbart and the USDA. What is your take on all of this?
Well, when the story first broke, we were heavily involved with working on the Tea Party caucus, so I really wasn't following it closely. But it seems like the underlying story has really been about race. That's the underlying thread. And I think what shocked me last week was one of my colleagues, Representative Sheila Jackson Lee, had made a comment that went completely unreported in the media. Had I made this comment, it would have been the end of my political career. But she said that we know who these people are. Long ago, they used to wear sheets over their heads, and now they've pulled their sheets off, and they've walked the aisle, and they call themselves Tea Party patriots. She is equating mainstream Americans who disagree with the Obama agenda of the rapid expansion of big government with being a part of the KKK. Now, that is so highly offensive, and that fits in with this whole story with the Sherrod woman because it's this idea of it seems like on the far left, if you disagree with someone who's on the political conservative side, you call them a racist.
Yeah,
and I think this has gotten out of control. You need to have an intellectual debate about the issues, not just malign your opponent and call them a racist because racism is real and it's ugly. And actually, by crying wolf, you might say, too many times, because let's face it, there is no substantive evidence ever that anyone has been able to demonstrate of racism being rampant in the Tea Party. And so this is reprehensible for one of my colleagues to say something like this, but I think what's even more reprehensible is you see the mainstream media completely ignore this statement. I will guarantee, had I said this statement, it would be heard and replayed over and over from one end of the country to the other.
Oh, yes. Well, and plus because you're a conservative. So that would
that's
make,
why.
That's
Not
it
because
right there.
it's me, but because I'm a conservative.
Yes, absolutely. This Tea Party caucus that was approved for formation on Monday. Now, you've talked a lot about this. What gave you the idea where did you get the idea to form a Tea Party caucus? Give me a little bit of backstory on this.
Yeah, the backstory is that we have never seen in modern times a spontaneous, organic movement like this, where literally hundreds of thousands of people have gotten up off their couches and they've decided to get involved in the political process because they're so nervous about this out-of-control spending and the rapid expansion of government bureaucracy at the federal level. I mean, this is unparalleled. And yet, all that's happened is that between the media and the far left, they've maligned these people and called them racist, like we said. And so especially after last week with the NAACP, I felt it was important that they be recognized and given credibility for what they stand for. They're very legitimate. All they want us to do is not spend more money than what we take in. They want us to abide by the Constitution because we're taxed enough already. Pretty mainstream as far as I'm concerned.
Yeah.
And so we decided to start this caucus because they have something to say, and people have told us that Congress isn't listening, which is true. Let me tell you what we're not. We aren't the mouthpiece for the Tea Party. We're not trying to co-opt it or direct it from Washington. I don't want to be the Tea Party spokesman. None of the members of Congress do. The Tea Party is who they are, and I am not vouching for the Tea Party or any group or individual in it or their signs or anything.
Mm-hmm.
All we are is saying we are members of Congress willing to listen to real people about real issues. This is unusual in Congress. Most caucuses don't do this, but we are willing to sit down on chairs and actually listen. And so to that end, we got approved on Monday. I now have 40 people that have joined the Tea Party caucus as members of Congress. We had 24 members show up on Wednesday. We had a dozen real people come and talk to us about the government needs to stop the spending, no more taxes, and act within the Constitution. And, I mean, I could go on for 10 minutes and tell you the phenomenal things these beautiful people said. African Americans saying, look, we're in the Tea Party and we're not racist and we want you to know. People who are recent immigrants from South America who said, look, we've seen our own country co-opted and we don't want to see America co-opted. And, I mean, I could go on and on.
Yeah.
And members of Congress are whooping and hollering. They thought it was great. So I asked Speaker Pelosi if we could use Skype so that people wouldn't have to come all the way to D.C.
Yeah.
We could just have a free Internet service and talk to people in real time. She said no, but, you know, I'm still going to push on that.
Well, what do you think about, because I've heard really both sides from a ton of people who just slam my inbox. What do you say to concerns from those who are in this movement? They're afraid to give the left the sacrificial lamb, and they're worried that with the organization of a caucus that might lead in that direction.
Well, in the direction of a sacrificial lamb.
Yes, like because you know the left. One of the strengths of the movement is that it's been and it's kind of funny to say this, so disorganized. And I think some of the concerns that I've heard from folks are they're worried that this caucus would become a major target for the left, and they would find a way to sort of perhaps deconstruct the movement through that caucus. What do you say to those people who bring those concerns forward?
Well, you know, we have been taunted. We as members of Congress have been taunted and intimidated in the last couple of days not to join the caucus because, again, they've said anyone who will join the caucus would obviously be a fruitcake or they would be a political freak. Well, that certainly is not true because just like that, within like about 24 hours, 40 members said, where do I sign? I want to be in this group because the left is deathly afraid of this movement. Because it's made up of disaffected Democrats, independents, Republicans, libertarians. It's a wide swath of Americans that have come together in a coalition unlike anything anyone has ever seen. And again, we do not want to co-opt this movement. We do not want to run it out of D.C. or be their spokeswoman or spokesperson. We want the movement to handle itself. We simply want to listen to them because they deserve respect, they deserve to be heard, and they deserve the credibility that they've richly earned.
Well, Representative Michele Bachmann, I appreciate all that you do, and I'm noting she did not say no to 2012. I understand you have your hands busy, though, battling Pelosi, but I so appreciate you being on with me this afternoon.
Dana, thanks, and people can go to michelebachmann.com for more information.
Fantastic. Thank you so much.
Thanks, Dana.
Bye-bye.